Hello everyone. I'm going to do this a little early today, and let's just get started. Like I've been reviewing Readwise highlights every day, and there is links to Readwise in each of the books I review in the description below. I hope you're enjoying them. And again, my interest in doing this is my self review, but also to go through the reviews highlights as soon as possible, as quickly as possible, so that I can figure out a um, consistency pattern for myself. So let's get started. Today's highlights. So the first highlight is from the book Think Again, and I think we have covered originals multiple times, but Think Again is the I think this is the first time it's appearing here. So okay, the quote is, "My favorite bias is the I am not biased bias, in which people believe they're more objective than others. It turns out that smart people are more likely to fall into this trap. The brighter you are, the harder it can be to see your own limitations. Being good at thinking can make you worse at rethinking." Um, I think I've seen this happen multiple times. For example, if when people learn more and more about what biases exist, there is this kind of feeling that okay, just because I know of these biases, I'm not biased anymore, and that's not true. Of course, sometimes the opposite happens. Because when you when you behave in a way which demonstrates bias, you actually have ammunition saying that no, I couldn't have, I know about that bias and this is not it. So yeah, this is somewhat similar to the Dunning-Kruger effect, the opposite of imposter syndrome. That people, some smart people, they sometimes overestimate their abilities, and we often overestimate our own abilities in controlling our own behaviors. So the last line says, being good at thinking can make you worse at rethinking. um, I mean, if you're not open to learning, and if you're not open to um, understanding, whatever you know about yourself, or whatever you know about the world, that it could, there is a slight possibility that things could be different. You're not going to accept that fact very easily. So yeah, let's move on. Okay, a quote from book Getting Things Done. It never hurts to ask the why question. Almost anything you're currently doing can be enhanced and even galvanized by more scrutiny at this top level of focus. This is from the section, I mean, I've not read this book. I mean, like, I'm reading this book now. It's kind of weird that I've not read this book yet. But yeah, this is in one of the earlier sections where the author is setting the different levels of understanding why you're doing some things, or how you're going to go about planning your work or planning your tasks. And it may be, I mean, not to me, but, it's kind of like this the notion of why vision is important has been reinforced multiple times to me. But yeah, sometimes it could be vague. I mean, why for a simple task would you ask, why should this be done? It has to be done. No questions asked. And I guess it's not really as prevalent as today. But the highlight, the quote over here, it kind of talks about that, that it never hurts to ask the why question. It's always make it a practice to ask why you're doing a certain task. What is it that you're solving? What is the vision? What is the reason behind the reason you're doing this task? And yeah, let's move on. Okay, A Mind for Numbers. Again, it's a book I'm reading right now. Attempting to recall the material you're trying to learn, retrieval practice, is far more effective than simply rereading the material. Right. And this is kind of what I'm doing with my reviewing the highlights as well. I'm trying to recall the context for each and every highlight I'm trying to read. I mean, of course, when I'm reading the highlight, I'm just rereading the material, right? But I mean, there is a lot more to it. There is context around it, and that's one of the reasons I'm doing this video as well, where I kind of talk to myself, I talk to you about the context, and it kind of reinforces the context. It kind of, I try to recall the context, thereby I try to, in doing that, I'm remembering the context better. That's one of the main reasons I'm doing this video series. And I mean, of course, I understand that there is probably not a large target audience for these kind of videos. But again, I'm doing this for myself just as much as for putting it out there. Putting it out there is just an excuse. It's more for myself. I'm trying to do a good job over here, so that I can think about these things in a more structured manner, in a way that could be put out in the open. And yeah, recalling the context is part of it. So the highlight over here, that's what I mean, like, apart from the context aspect of it, which I just discussed. Apart from that, uh, it's talking about testing yourself on what you have read. So you might have read about this book is mostly about learning topics like mathematics and sciences and everything. So there is this thing about why is it important to test yourself. It's not just, okay, you've read this material, you have reread it, and you have learned it. It doesn't quite work that way. Testing the material, testing yourself, or having yourself being tested is one of the best ways to remember this over a long term, and also build connections. It's if you're recalling this material again and again, and in different circumstances, now you're building a kind of a connection which is going to help you see solutions to problems you never saw before. So yeah, I recommend this book. If you're trying to learn not just sciences or maths, but if you're trying to learn how learning works, I think it's a very useful book for that. I would definitely recommend it. Okay, from Stolen Focus. It's a mistake, he said, to try to monotask by force of will, because it's too hard to resist that informal informational tap on the shoulder. Right. So this is about avoiding distractions, avoiding things like Twitter or Facebook. I think I should say Meta. No, yeah. I mean, but avoiding social media, and just forcing your will to focus on your task and not be distracted at all. And the author is basically pointing out that it's a mistake, because it's too hard to resist, and you're spending your energy in avoiding the distraction more than concentrating on the tasks that you need to do. There is a lot more to this. Like I said, I mean, there are studies, why the distraction will always win out. And it's like a losing battle. If you're just trying to fight distractions, it's a losing battle. It's about changing your environment. Something that was a surprise to me when I read this book by James Clear, Atomic Habits. um, before that, I was of the opinion that you can, I mean, whatever your environment, you can still focus on your task. And I have, after reading the book, I have realized more and more the role the environment plays in our own um, in our own stability, in our own ability to get things done. So yeah, yeah, I think this highlight is also very much along those lines. If you're trying to force the environment to bend to your will, it's a losing battle. You would spend a lot of energy, and you would not get the task the task that you're trying to do. You would not do a great job at that either. So the point here, I mean, the point the book is making is actually much larger. But for me, the takeaway for me is to change the environment. Things like um, install those blockers, that will block Twitter, Facebook access for a while. I mean, I simply use Google's own what is it called? I forget what is it called. But every morning, I mean, for half a day, all of these things, all of these apps are blocked for me. The websites are not blocked, but okay, that's something else I can look into. And yeah, it's like everything I can do to avoid the distractions, that helps. Let's move on. Okay, another highlight from Getting Things Done. All of your projects, active project plans, and next actions, agendas, waiting for anyone someday maybe list should be reviewed once a week. This also gives you an opportunity to ensure that your brain is clear and that all the loose trends of the past few days have been captured, clarified, and organized. This was uh, this was interesting to me because I mean, I've been following this. Like I was using this application called Todoist. And I mean, I'm still using it. It's but earlier I put everything in it, all the tasks and everything. And the mistake I made was I never reviewed them. So ultimately, I stopped paying attention to to-do list because it was just kind of like a dumping ground. It became a dumping ground. And that is why this highlight is especially interesting to me, because it tells that, it it exactly refers to what the problem I faced. Sorry. So if you're not going to, if you're dumping everything in one place, you can't trick your brain. It's your brain knows that, okay, you're not going to look at this list anymore. You put it over there, you're forgetting it for now, but then the brain kind of reminds you that, okay, oh yeah, you're forgetting something, and that is what drains your energy. That is what prevents us from getting things done. So one of the critical things of uh, being able to use this list, the to-do list applications and all of that, is to make sure that we're looking at that every once in a while, so that our brains, it's kind of, there is this trust built into the process that, okay, no, I'm going to look at this list, and so our brain can offload the effort. And when you're focusing on a task, you're focused on just that task. You're not reminded of everything else you need to be doing as well. So yeah, this was a kind of thing that I've been missing. And I mean, with this learning, I'm going to kind of re-explore this to-do list and other to-do list integrations, and see what how I can adopt those workflows. So this highlight is from 7.5 lessons about the brain. I just finished it last night. Yeah, I mean, it was a very short book comparatively. I mean, compared to what I've been reading. So when it comes to human minds, variation is the norm, and what we call human nature is really many human natures. We don't need one universal mind in order to claim that we are all one species. All we need is an exceptionally complex brain that wires itself to its physical and social surroundings. So context is little difficult to convey over here. Um, but it's about, it was in this chapter that, like, our brain is really multiple minds. It's not one mind. And like the complexities, I mean, our brain is a really complex complex organ, complex mechanism, with trillions of connections, in billions of neurons. So a brain, and of course there is this extension, like not just our brain, but brains of other organisms in our social setting, that we form a social reality. And again, it's I'm not really sure how to explain the context really well over here, because it's kind of it's kind of like, I mean, I have to go through the whole chapter to explain this. It seems like one of those things. But I think the message over here, if I can condense it to some learning, is that, depending on the social reality that we have in our mind, we have a different behavior, a different reaction, or a different understanding of the world around us based on the social reality we are in. And it's all based on different experiences, right? It's like, not, even if there are things that we repeatedly do, the experience of doing that thing changes, with every instance of it. So really, again, I think I'm not able to get hit the point of this particular quote, so maybe I should just leave it for now. Okay, this is from 4,000 Weeks. You've come across this book before. From this new perspective, it becomes possible to see that preparing nutritious meals for your children might matter as much as anything could even ever matter, even if you won't be winning any cooking awards, or that your novel's worth writing if it moves or entertains a handful of your contemporaries, even though you're no Tolstoy, or that virtually any career might be a worthwhile way to spend a working life if it makes things slightly better for those it serves. Furthermore, it means that if what we learn from the experience of the coronavirus pandemic is to become just a little more attuned to the needs of our neighbors, we'll have learned something valuable as a result of the great pause, no matter how far off the root and branch transformation of society remains. This is in one of the later chapters, if I remember correctly, about it's kind of like a takeaway of everything in the book, and the book covers a lot of different aspects of why we are losing our ability to focus. Things like the aspects with I mean the uh, what's the word? I mean, like the falling standards for nutrition that we have. I mean, a lot of our food is being replaced by processed food, and how does that matter in our ability to pay attention to things? There is pollution, air pollution, noise pollution. There is the the constant struggle of keeping up with our uh, keeping up with generally demands on our time. And despite all of these things, I mean, small actions like the examples given over here, preparing a nutritious meal, or uh, just writing a novel, just writing a text, just writing maybe an essay, even though it may not serve some grand ambitions, but you're making the world slightly better with each and everything you're doing. A small act like checking on your neighbors. Really, I think it all starts with the small actions. I mean, there is this thing about okay, always aiming towards grand actions, but we forget that okay, there are so many smaller actions we could do that make life just better for even one other individual, and we don't think of that. Like chasing some grand ambition, for the 15 minutes fame and everything. Anyway, yeah, this book, like I said, I really loved it. I would strongly recommend this book. Okay, another highlight from Think Again. How could how I could be highly agreeable and still cherish a good argument. Agreeableness is about seeking social harmony, not cognitive consensus. It's possible to disagree without being disagreeable. Yeah, I think um, this is about going against the group in a way, as in against the thoughts of the group, and the impression that we have that okay, I mean, if I disagree with the group, I'll be kind of removed from it. And of course, this has evolutionary been wired into us, trying to be a part of the group. So the the highlight over here, it's making a point that I mean, a point that sounds obvious, but I think it's something that needs to be said, that it is possible to be agreeable and still cherish a good argument. Just because you're having an argument, it doesn't mean that you're against the group, or it's just because you're disagreeing with something, it doesn't mean that you're disagreeable. And thereby, the author is making a point that it's fine. Good argument is it's not only okay, it is required in good teams. You need to have good arguments. You need to have that. It doesn't mean that you're giving up on the social harmony. Sometimes those arguments are the lifeblood of what makes the teams move forward. And of course, I'm kind of mixing in learnings from other books over here, but yeah, this is kind of condensed in this highlight as well. Let's move on. Oh, again, another one from Think Again. I think what this is the third one today. So, when students confront complex problems, they often feel confused. A teacher's natural impulse is to rescue them as quickly as possible so they don't feel lost or incompetent. Yet, psychologists find that one of the hallmarks of an open mind is responding to confusion with curiosity and interest. Right. So, this is a lot of training today has become of the nature where you're just giving quick answers uh, to whatever problems there are. And sometimes our trainers incentives are also wired that way. What was the trainees experience in a training session? If they had great experience because you answer all of their questions immediately, as soon as they had a question you answer it immediately, they have a great experience, because like they have that short term rush that yeah, I could solve this, I could understand this, I found the answers I was looking for, I was able to ask an intelligent question, and I got the answer for that immediately. This doesn't work out so well in the long term. And it's something that like we in my organization where I work, we have a trainer, and I've been working with him um, to think about this. It's like it's not always a great idea to just give answers immediately. It's okay to let people struggle. It's like the last line says, psychologists find that one of the hallmarks of an open mind is responding to confusion with curiosity and interest. So if there is confusion, the answer is not in giving the answer right then and there, but let them respond with curiosity and interest. Let them explore the area. This is further elaborated in the other books, science, um, mind for numbers. Sorry, forget the book name again, but we just reviewed the highlight a few quotes ago. So that particular highlight talked about the ability to recall. I mean, like, why is recalling important in a learning thing? You have to struggle to recall. It's like, what I'm doing over here, I'm struggling to recall the context, and that struggle, that is what makes it worthwhile in the long term. That's what keeps the lessons, whatever I've read in the book, it keeps them with me longer. um, because otherwise, I mean, as of yesterday, I think I've read like 36 books this year. I How do I remember all of that? One of the ways I remember these things is by going through these highlights and trying to force myself to um, recall what was the context. Before I started making these videos, I was like, for some of these quotes, not all of them. I mean, in videos I'm covering all the 10 highlights, but I would, maybe select few of them, and I would put them as LinkedIn posts. So like Readwise has this nice feature. I can just say share. It'll generate this nice graphic, and I would put this on LinkedIn with my takeaways, right? And so that would force me to kind of think about this quote and try to condense and try to write something about my takeaways from this particular highlight. I'm trying to do the same thing in a different format, in a video right now. That's it. So yeah, I think I've spoken enough about this. Yeah. So it's not about the teacher's natural impulse is to rescue them as quickly as possible, and that is exactly what we should avoid as trainers or as mentors. So moving on to the next, this is from Range again, and I think another book that we have done before. And okay, so my advantage in calculating tactics has been nullified by the machine. The primary benefit of years of experience with specialized training was outsourced, and in a contest where humans focused on strategy, he suddenly had peers. Hmm, I have I'm missing the context of this. I mean, I have a feeling what is this about, but again, I don't really recall enough to say anything about this. Let me just take a minute. Yeah, I think it's best if I skip this. I can't really recall the context over here right now. All right, so that's our 10 highlights for today. Let's see the bonus one. Standout cover letters. The most successful salespeople have no doubt they produce of famous. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think this is it's like on a superficial level, it makes sense. But again, I've not read this book. I have no idea what they're talking about over here. I mean, I can imagine what they're talking about, but yeah, it's not much to talk about really because I've not read this book. So that's it for today, and I'm hoping you're finding these videos useful. Do let me know what you think, and if there are some small things I can change. Again, like in various videos, I've kind of reiterated why am I doing this, and I would love to know your thoughts. If you're doing something similar, or if you have any ideas for me, or if you have book suggestions, based on the books that I've been highlighting over here, the ones that you've been seeing. If you have book suggestions, please let me know. So have a good day.